Good evening. We are starting a little bit later tonight than I would have liked to. Right as I was going to go live, my stomach decided to act up. So I spent the last half hour or so in too much pain to play video games, which is how you know it's the real deal. Also, congratulations, Zareen, on being first. Now I gotta try and remember how to play this game. Okay, that's the violence part. The important part, one might say. Okay, so if memory serves, I've got to find some sunlight so I can make my sword shine and tell me where to go. Okay, looks like we got enough sunlight as it is. This is the game you've heard good things about? Same. I've never actually played this game before last week. But everybody who I've ever heard talk about this game really likes this game. So I was like, I should play this game. Yeah, the premise is rather simple. You run around, you find Colossi, and you stab them until they stop moving. The controls are a little bit weird, but like, they feel surprisingly good once you get used to them. Though it has been a week and consequently I am no longer used to them, so... might feel a little bit of jank, at least to begin with. Reminds me of Breath of the Wild. I can see where you would draw the comparison. This looks like it ought to be climbable, but... oh, there it is. I was hitting the wrong button. I wonder if I'm gonna find the Colossus here, or if this is something unrelated. It still amuses me just like how noodly and floppy my movements are. I think that's the Colossus I'm looking for. It looks kind of like a fused shadow monster from Twilight Princess. I'm gonna stab it. Once I figure out how. I wonder if it noticed me. I think it probably did. Now the question becomes, is it going to swoop down on and murder me if I get too close? Because it's kind of poised like a bird of prey getting ready to hunt. Do I have to find some way to get this thing to move to a different tower, perhaps? Because I don't think it wants to show me its tail. I don't seem able to draw my bow underwater. Okay, so plan A, which was walk up slowly and stab it, has kind of petered out before it began. Plan 2 is going to be try taking a shot at it and see what happens. Because that's part of the fun of this game, is just figuring out how to even start hurting the things. Wait, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. You'd think it'd be difficult to lose track of something that's literally, by definition, colossal. Hey friend, there's something on your face. I don't think it liked that. So shooting it makes it fly. Is it going to fly to somewhere? Use thy bow and arrow to gain the Colossus's attention. I mean, I really don't think I needed that hint at this point in progression, but thank you anyway. The sentiment is appreciated. Okay, if it just keeps circling like this, my thought process is basically, can I climb up onto something and then leap off and grab onto it as it flies by? Is there anything that's, like, suitable for that? It seems like it dips down there, so probably that bit of ruin right there. Thank you for the head tats. I appreciate them. Oh, congratulations on the 10 stream streak. And yeah, well, sometimes it can be a little bit annoying to, like, not know what to do. Some games definitely go a little bit too far in the opposite direction. Like they're terrified by the prospect that you might get stumped by something and just like not actually do it. Okay, can I climb up this thing? I'm looking for something handhold shaped. I'll know it when I see it, because it'll look like handholds. What if I can just climb the walls? Doesn't look like it. I keep hitting the call horse button by accident. I don't think it's gonna make it here. Just a hunch. I don't seem able to climb that. I might be entirely barking up the wrong tree. With those three pillars sheared the way that they are, they definitely look like some sort of, like, jumping progression sequence thing. Maybe it's saying I need to shoot the thing again? The camera is presumably trying to be helpful. How many arrows do I have? I'm pretty sure it's unlimited. I don't think I'm hitting it. Or maybe I am, and now it's mad. Yeah, I feel like it didn't come down this close before. I would really like it if the camera stopped not pointing the direction I want it to. I think that the thing just buzzed the water surface and came down really far, but I can't be sure because the camera was just like, hey, you want to look at the character's inevitable bald spot or whatever? Maybe if there's something over top of me. Oh. I think I actually hit it there. Well, that worked out. Oh shoot. Mistakes have been made. But I also learned that there's another weak spot on its left wing, so next time I annoy it, I can go there. Yep, I fell, but I landed headfirst in, water from a substantial distance, which, as you know, is not harmful in the slightest. Totally wouldn't feel like crashing into a concrete floor. Thank you for the hydration. And for the head pats. They are both appreciated and required for my health. I'm not sure if this is the same one that I got onto it before. It's funny when you're sleepy. Thank you for spending the time that you did. I'm sorry I didn't start earlier. Just sometimes my stomach has an agenda of its own. Have a wonderful rest. I might want to go over to those ones instead. You would think that it'd be harder to lose sight of a literal Colossus, but here we are. I think maybe I want to be over there. Or maybe the specific one doesn't really matter? not entirely certain. Also, it feels kind of weird being at the top of an hour and not cutting to break, but like... things appear to have worked out that way. I do kind of wish that I had one-cycled this thing, but... learning moment. I wonder if it's specifically the left wing, or if it's got weak points on both of them. I should probably check the next time I have my feet underneath me. I feel like it probably has a weak point on each wing. Getting off the bit that's... Getting past the bit that's not furry is going to take some doing, I suspect. I think my best odds might actually be to wait until it takes a bank, and then to just let go. Like that, but the other way, for this particular wing. Assuming that it will bank that way at some point. It might not, actually. Okay, I suspect that the other wing is going to be the problematic one. Come on, no! Shoot. I like how the epic music just cut out the instant I hit the water. Right on a high note, too. Thank you for the head pats. This is fine, I roughly know what I'm doing now. It's just a question of execution. It's execution, it's a matter of execution. Oh, I think that one hit it. Better the camera went underwater. Okay, so now it's backing the other way around. Oh, I can actually use the edge of its wing. That's useful. I am learning more about the creature with every attempt. I was previously under the impression that it had to be furry. Alright, round whichever round this is. Where are you? Oh, hi. I feel like if I was the Colossus in this situation, especially after having been stabbed like 3 or 4 times already, I would simply not pick up the creature attempting to stab me to death. I would just fly somewhere else with my wings. Like, it's probably, like, its nesting spot, but, like... At a certain point, I feel like you cut your losses. Oh, it actually shook me off. Never punished. Just walk back. Colossi cannot legally shake you off without your consent. Not the biggest fan of the way that the character keeps snapping to that wing membrane. Unless I can hit this from here. Oh, okay. Never mind, this is fine. I actually kind of like this game's control scheme. It's growing on me. Oh, shoot. I let go too early. So as I was saying, fuck this game's control scheme. I kid. And after all the slick moves I spent, or after all the slick moves that I did, staying on there as long as I did, I don't get shaken off, I let go. There's probably a metaphor in there somewhere. Unfortunately, it's about to be meta forgotten because I'm going in for round however many rounds this has been. Plus one. Okay, had to be one over. And it's dead. And I just fall off. I like how you hear me splash in the middle of this like very dramatic cutscene. Yeah, now legally it has to give me its noodles. Do I need to find the body first? Oh, that looks like it. I feel like passing out submerged underwater is like up there on the list of places you don't want to pass out in. I guess I would like to save. You imagine you get bit by 8 mosquitoes and you just die? I mean, that sounds like me whenever I go out in warm weather. Imagine not making a save file for each fight. You know, now that you've said that, there's a part of me that kind of wants to start the game over. Thy next foe is... a giant lurks underneath the temple. It lusts for destruction, but a fool it is not. It's here, under the floorboards. Do the number of doves increase every time I kill a Colossus? I should keep an eye on that. Under the temple, the thing says. My Zelda brain is just like, ooh, cracked wall, get some bombs. It says under the temple, but it also says that way. Maybe it doesn't mean the shrine of worship. Maybe it means like something else. It probably means something else. If this were a Skyrim horse, this mountain would be functionally flat ground. It's actually kind of funny. Whenever I played Skyrim, I would like never use a horse. And I would always climb mountains by like jumping a lot. And then one time I actually got a horse, and it literally just like ran straight up the side of a mountain. I was like, wow, they were not exaggerating. It just doesn't slow down, it just goes vertical and keeps climbing. Continue to go this way? Alright. This looks like a shrine. Which I take to mean that I'm probably on the right track. I tried every button except for the one that actually worked. And there's going to be a white-tailed gecko around here somewhere, I think. I feel like Dora the Explorer. Can you see the gecko? Took a few tries. Nom. Now, was the one running around the pillar a different one, or was it just one that kind of ran off to the side? As if there are two, I would like to have two. I think it was just the one. You don't like the water sound effects? Well, luckily we just got out of the area with all the water. I think it's because it's, like, muddy, more so than watery. I also enjoy the little dainty prance that I'm doing here. If I saw somebody walk like that in real life, I would think that there was something wrong with them, if I'm being entirely honest. So that direction... You know, come to think of it, I wonder how the horse knows to come back whenever I get presumably warped away. This did not look like a desert from up there. This looked like a swamp from up there. What the heck? Literally nothing happens in the area with the big tree. Nice. I would have assumed that you, like, climbed the tree or something. Given that in broad strokes, this is a game about climbing things. Under the temple, they say. Was that a turtle? Hello, turtle friend. Yeah, it's a dog. It has 4 legs, that means that it's a dog. Yeah, I presume that the structure would have been built around him. That or because there are, like, gods involved, maybe they just, like, willed it into existence. Yeah, so on his forehead, on his... oh no. I don't have light. like to get up, not sidestep. Well, that just happened. Getting ragdolled just a little, as a treat. I wonder if I'm, like, meant to get him to break, like, everything. Like, why give me all this arena and then not use it? What if I can grab onto those, like, spurs on his ankle? Oh no. Reconsidering my plan where I stand underfoot. I have a hard time taking this music seriously because I'm used to hearing it in, like, meme videos where, like, somebody gets onto, like, a riding lawnmower and, like, flies off into the sunset. Okay, I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, you know what? You know what? I think I know what to do. Or maybe I can't do it, but I think I know what I'm gonna try next. First, I have to get back on the back of his hand. I don't know about you, but find a place where thou art hidden. I mean... I had an idea. I want to try my idea first. And then I got squinched. These things happen. Okay, didn't make me run all the way back. That's nice. Well, my idea didn't involve dying, so... Okay, my idea did not work. I'm gonna try hiding. My idea was basically, like, when he, like, waved his arm back towards him, I was gonna try letting go and, like, getting flung onto his beard. I'm getting shoved over repeatedly. It's just like being back on the playground in elementary school. You can't see me. Surprise! Just gotta catch my breath. Bro is not giving me a moment's peace. It's almost like he doesn't want to get stabbed in the cranium. We'll just try that again. I wonder if I need to, like, go elsewhere first. Because, like... it seems that, like, once he knows I'm on his head, I don't really get much opportunity to do anything to it. But if I can get him, like, distracted trying to get me off his shoulder or whatever, that could work, maybe. It begins. not be able to get, like, the real nice big stabs. I might have to go for, like, little ones. Oh, there's the other mark. I was wondering where that was. Here's a trick I learned from Spy from TF2. Except if Spy did it, it would only take one and he would die instantly. And he's dead. He died, and his last words were, "Receive of me the forbidden ramen." And then I passed out from a food coma because, like, those things were like several times my body volume. I would like to save. Yeah, it's not a very long game. I think How Long to Beat said that it was like 7 to 8 hours. A bit more if you go for 100%, which I typically don't. Thy next foe is... a ruin hidden in the lake. A ripple of thunder lurks underwater. Thank you for the rotation. And the hydration. Ow, my bones. All that water that just went into me is gonna come out through the hole that you just put in my trachea. But I lived. And I've been reverted back to my previous form. And there are 6 birds now, so I think the number of birds is equal to the number of colossi. Anyway, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. return. Under a lake, they say. Not the first time I found myself going in this direction. Thank you for the headphones, I appreciate them. I wonder if that's the lake in question. You're playing a really big new Paper Mario ROM hack? Do tell. Is it called Scissors Mario? And if not, why is it not called Scissors Mario? It's called Star Nova? Alright, alright. Is it like a gameplay like overhaul, or is it like a full-on like new campaign just in the Paper Mario engine? Only game in the engine? Awesome. ROM hacks like that are always like both difficult and impressive. And whenever I see one, there's a little voice in the back of my head that just goes, why learn ROM hacking to do this when you could have just learned Godot and made a game? But still, it's very impressive. I hope you're having fun with it. Maybe so you die in the intro if you try and save Luigi or leave Luigi. That's unfortunate. Actually, isn't there a ROM hack that's like the entirety of the adventure that Luigi claims to have gone on in Thousand Year Door? Whoops. Did I knock the thing down without killing it? Yes, I did. There we go. It was all calculated, so I thought I wouldn't have to climb. Totally. It bugs me a teensy tiny little bit that the arrow doesn't actually go to where the reticule indicates. At least not at that range. But I was able to adjust. But yeah, like, in the past, for example, I've considered, like, making a ROM hack for Link to the Past. But then it's like, with the amount of things that I would want to do in, like, a ROM hack that I would have in my head, literally I'd be farther ahead to just make it as a thing in Godot, and then not get murdered by Nintendo. Like, not saying that ROM hacking is, like, unwise or anything, it's just like, that's where my head's at. True, sometimes it is just love of the game. You can't really replicate that if it's not the game. I feel like perhaps I got off track, but I can't verify it unless the sun is shining. Oh, hey, sun. Get into the sun, you horse. Okay, looks like we go this way. You've encountered visual bugs. Are you sure it wasn't just Luigi's face? You think that maybe this is one of those instances where you're supposed to use like a certain renderer? Because I've seen Simple Flips do some Super Mario 64 ROM hacks, and every now and then he has to like change the renderer that his emulator's using, otherwise it doesn't render correctly. Under the lake, they said. That's aggro. Oh, how polite, it's going to come up to meet me. An angry electrified fish, no less. What could possibly go wrong? We can just turn sideways instead of head down. Maybe they're just doing like an elbow, maybe they're just doing like an elbow drop. The water appears to be blocking my arrows. A little afraid to get near it because I think I'm gonna get electrocuted. As a fox, I have 8 lives. You're thinking of cats. I've only got 1 life, it just goes on forever. It's like, no. Oh wait, is it gonna try and come up and eat me? Okay, so I can grab onto its tail. Was there not a weak point here? It seems like the play is to hold on when it goes underwater and to advance when it's above water. And I probably don't want to spend time near those spikes when they're underwater. Yeah, exactly. It's cats that get 9 lives. Kitsune only get 1. It's just we're immortal, so it goes on forever. Oh, that looks snappable. Oh, did that turn off the electricity? Nice. I was worried about the electricity. Luckily, Colossi come with an off switch, as it turns out. Oh, it is really draining my stamina. Yeah, that went from like a manageable drain to like all of my stamina all at once. Oh well, I know roughly what I'm doing now. This is fine. Also, normally I would be calling stream right around now, but because I started approximately half an hour late, I'm thinking that I'm gonna go approximately half an hour over. Yeah, that's probably a decent compromise. If I kill the Colossus, I might just call it there. I really don't like starting late, but it's better than not getting a stream in at all. So you take what you can get sometimes. And off we go. Actually, if I kill this thing right away... I don't think I'll land right away. I'm gonna go for a bit longer. I mostly bring it up so that, like, in the possibility that somebody, like, times things with, like, me ending a stream, it's like, oh, hang on, that thing should be happening right about now. The usually reliable thing is not happening at the usually reliable time. I don't think this is gonna take much longer. But who knows, maybe it'll shake me off again. I certainly don't want to let it do that, but like it might. One more snap for good luck. And it's dead. You know, we're definitely not calling it now, it's way too early. This was what, the 7th Colossus? Weren't there only 8? I can check the number of statues in the temple once I get back. Speaking of getting back, where are my noodles? I hunger. Oh, there we go. It was probably either 8 or 12. I think it's 12. Thy next foe is... a tail trapped within a pail deep within the forest. A shadow that crawls on the walls. You know, for the amount of work that this horse is putting in, I really feel like I should probably be feeding it. Like, normally I don't feed my servants, but like this one's been doing a lot of work, and more to the point, will probably collapse if I don't feed it at some point. Maybe I'll give it the next, white gecko tail. True, horses are herbivorous, right? I don't think I've ever actually pronounced herbivorous? Herbivorous? That word. I think I've only ever written that word down. I don't know if I've ever actually said it out loud. Carnivorous is the meat one, so herbivorous is probably the plant one. Where's... hold up. Are we on the right path? Yes, yes we are. Cool. That looks like a passage. Not the right one, though? Yes, the right one. Yeah, like, I know that the word is, herbivorous, but, like, pronouncing it out loud. This thing's whole body is white. Why can I not consume it? Oh wait, I can. I don't think that was actually white. I think that was just reflection. This place is pretty. Probably want to go into that thing. And we got real close there. I see something under the water. That's not terrifying at all. Looks kind of like a moray. Surprised that there wasn't any, like, save point thingy. Maybe there was one on the outside of this building and I just didn't look for it. That sounds like something I would do. Like, who maintains those fires? It's probably the god again. Just everything is, oh yeah, the god of life and death did it. Don't question it. This guy looks like a JRPG super boss. This guy looks like Yasmon. He's even in an arena. He's glowing like a Monster Hunter monster that only shows up in the expansion that you have to pay for. It actually amuses me somewhat that they just straight up are like, yeah, walk down this entire staircase. Also, the camera's gonna be fighting you every step of the way. Is it the underside? Oh dear. Is it solar powered? And he's dead. I like how he landed gracefully on his feet and then was just like, actually, nah, I need a nap. I wonder if I need to shoot an arrow into his mouth when he winds up for an attack. Oh, I shot him in the mouth and I died. This is fine. Oh geez, I'm all the way up here again. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't think it's the mouth. Breath is a dot. Are you sure it's a dot? Or is it like a lingering, like, damage area? Because those are two different things. If you can step out and the damage stops, I wouldn't personally call it a dot. So it seems like kind of in general, touching this thing is bad news. Shout out to Shadow Flare. Shadow Flare wasn't a dot. It didn't put anything on the opponent. If they stood in the area, they took damage. If they stepped out, they stopped. Like, as far as I'm concerned, a dot is only a dot if it involves, like, putting an effect on a target that causes them to lose life as long as that effect is on them. A lingering damage zone would be a contiguous damage source, which is different. Anyway, speaking of over time, I'm gonna wait for my health to come back because that thing really hurts. Genuinely not sure how to even approach this one. It seems fully armored. Maybe I can, like, get it to bask in the sunlight for too long and, like, explode? Like, oh no, too much energy. Or, like, maybe I have to, like, shine more energy than it can handle into it with the sword? Because I don't think walking up and, like, attacking it is gonna be the thing that works. But who knows, maybe it is. It did work for everything else so far, after all. Or, like, maybe I want to get it to, like, stand on its own thing. We need the overthinking kept like yesterday? What was happening yesterday? I wasn't even streaming. Waiting for my health to come back again. It is cool that your health comes back. I kinda wish that it came back while you were moving. What if I do a little sneaky and grab onto its tail and climb underneath it? Like, is that an option? Certainly seems like an option. I do see fluff down there. Well, that didn't work out. Maybe I need to shoot it in the legs? Oh. Oh, I was standing in the bed without realizing it. But okay, I've got a step 1 to my 37-step plan. Now I just gotta work out 2 through 36. I think I hit it in the leg with the sword, and just in my mind, I dismissed the legs as, like, armored, and therefore don't attack them. be fair, the very first thing that I tried was hitting his legs with the sword, and it bounced off like it was metallic. Oh, it climbs the walls. Maybe I have to, like, bait it up and then, like, either use a hole like that or stab it through a window. Also, come to think of it, I can see where I'm storing the sword. Where am I storing the bow? Maybe I need to attack it from underneath once it's on the wall? Oh, you know what? I wonder if I shoot it in the leg once it's on the wall and then I still, like, fall and expose its tummy. There we go. Thank you for the headbats. Okay, I got the strat now. Oh. Thank you for the hydration. Hey, guess what? I'm up here. What you gonna do about it? Shit, he's dead. That one was concurrently more confusing and more straightforward than the last several Colossi have been, I feel. Granted, the confusing bit was probably because, like, I fundamentally misunderstood it. But I did it! So it sounds like with each Colossus that I kill, like, her words get more legible. Oh, she's getting up. Was it actually 8? Did I just beat the game? It's grainy, so I suspect that this is just, like, imagination. Yeah.
Oh no.
My next foe is... the land where trees nearly grow. It sleeps in a dry lake bed. A rude awakening. I feel like I got given that exact line once already. Yeah, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so we're about halfway done. Yeah, we're gonna call it there for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. The game is going to be Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. The next time that I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus in particular is going to be on Wednesday. And hopefully it'll be on time next Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.